The city of New York buzzed with its usual chaos, but in the press room of the Attorney General's office, a different kind of storm was brewing. Letitia James, New York's chief prosecutor, stood at a podium adorned with the state's golden seal, her face a mask of righteous indignation. Flanked by political allies and a carefully curated press corps, she announced her latest legal crusade, a civil enforcement action against Neural Core Technologies, a subsidiary of X Corp, owned by none other than Elon Musk. Her voice rang with rehearsed conviction. We are filing this action to address serious violations of consumer protection, financial transparency, and threats to the integrity of our elections. The accusations were a familiar playbook. Neural Core's AI algorithms could mislead voters, its content filters were inadequate, and it risked monetizing disinformation. But the truth, buried beneath the rhetoric, was inconvenient. Neural Core was in closed beta, fully compliant with federal regulations, and had received a clean bill of health from the Federal Trade Commission weeks earlier. This wasn't a lawsuit. It was a spectacle, a political hit job dressed in legal jargon. James wasn't targeting Neural Core. She was targeting Musk, the man who'd dared to defy the Democratic machine by transforming Twitter into X, exposing the Twitter files and amplifying voices the establishment wanted silenced. The press ate it up. CNN dubbed X a digital Wild West. MSNBC warned of an existential threat to truth. And the New York Times praised James's courage in confronting unchecked tech power. But the coverage wasn't organic. It was orchestrated. Leaked press releases, pre-scripted talking points, and coordinated embargoes had ensured the narrative was locked in before James even spoke. This was no investigation. It was choreography, and Musk saw through it. Hours after the announcement, Musk fired back, not with lawyers or a PR firm, but with a single tweet. They've gone too far. Attached was a screenshot of an internal email from James's office, anonymously leaked. The subject line read, "Filing Strategy, Neural Core." One line stood out. Ideal window is pre-midterms for maximum impact. Tie AI to election interference for broader reach. The internet exploded. Independent outlets like the Free Press and Substack dug deeper, uncovering a pattern. James's lawsuits against Trump, conservative nonprofits, and now Musk followed the same template. Timed leaks, coordinated headlines, and activist experts funded by progressive think tanks. This wasn't justice, it was a machine. By the next day, Musk escalated. He posted a 50-page PDF titled Weaponized Justice, the Letitia James Playbook, a meticulously documented timeline of James's selective prosecutions. Conservative groups audited relentlessly. Progressive nonprofits ignored. Lawsuits timed with Democratic fundraising spikes. It was damning. At the end, Musk issued a challenge. If this is about justice, let James prove it under oath. She's not protecting democracy, she's manipulating it. I'm taking this to Congress. The response was seismic. Moderate Democrats whispered concerns. Is this too far? Legal scholars admitted a political pattern in James's actions. Within 72 hours, the House Judiciary Committee issued a subpoena. James would testify, but Musk would go first, not as a defendant, but as a witness. The hunter had become the prey. The hearing room in Washington was a cauldron of tension, cameras trained on a man who didn't flinch. Elon Musk sat alone, a black binder and a thumb drive before him, his expression calm but unyielding. The chairman called the session to order. "Mr. Musk, the floor is yours." Musk leaned into the microphone, his voice steady. Letitia James has turned a public office into a partisan weapon. She's used taxpayer resources to wage ideological warfare under the guise of justice. She doesn't investigate crime. She manufactures narratives and uses the courts to enforce them. He opened the binder, revealing his first piece of evidence, a leaked memo from James's office, dated days before the Neural Core lawsuit. Titled Target Messaging Strategy, it outlined pre-written quotes for MSNBC, suggested timing to overshadow conservative events, and an approval chain leading to James's chief of staff. "This isn't an investigation," Musk said. "It's a media operation disguised as a lawsuit." He clicked to a presentation slide, revealing a financial trail. $4.2 million in grants from Soros-linked nonprofits funneled to James's office for legal innovation. These same nonprofits hired PR firms that had attacked Musk in prior years. A grant agreement explicitly prioritized litigation against disinformation platforms like X. "She was bought," Musk said bluntly. "This isn't justice, it's a business model." Then came the selective prosecution matrix, a chart comparing James's actions. Trump's real estate valuations sued. Cuomo linked. Developers ignored. Neural Core targeted for misinformation. Progressive outlets like Media Matters untouched. Conservative nonprofits investigated. Left-wing groups overlooked. "If you're on the wrong side of her politics," Musk said, "you're guilty by design." The committee then heard from a whistleblower, Sarah Klein, a former analyst in James's digital policy unit. Her hands trembled as she spoke, but her voice was firm. "I was told to flag Neural Core for potential risks despite no evidence. When I raised concerns, my supervisor said, 'It's not about proof, it's about perception.' I saw memos directing us to prioritize cases that aligned with donor priorities. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Her testimony, broadcast live, sent shockwaves, humanizing the scandal and cementing James's exposure. The final blow was another whistleblower transcript from James's team. One staffer wrote, "Neural Core isn't public-facing yet. This won't hold." Another replied, "Doesn't matter. We need 24 hours of headlines. The courts come second." Musk looked at the committee. "If you let this slide, your silence is complicity." The fallout was immediate. CNN called the memos troubling. Independent outlets ran headlines like "Musk turns tables on lawfare," and bipartisan lawmakers proposed a bill to curb prosecutor-activist coordination. James's system was unraveling. Weeks later, the evidence snowballed. Musk's team, alongside congressional investigators, compiled 2,000 pages of documents from James's office, emails, financial reports, and memos that painted a chilling picture. The New York Attorney General's office wasn't a neutral enforcer. It was a political strike force, funded by ideology, powered by donors, and shielded by media. The first set of documents revealed direct coordination with political operatives. An email from James's digital policy director to the Center for American Progress requested pre-drafted statements on AI and democracy for the Neural Core case, with a rollout planned with Media Matters. Another email mentioned new funding streams if Musk's platform could be tied to electoral influence. This wasn't speculation. It was collusion. The second set exposed the funding loop. Over $7 million in grants from criminal justice reform networks flowed to James's office, each with strings attached. One agreement named Musk's entities as priority monitoring subjects. Every lawsuit generated more funds through awareness grants and media consulting fees. "This isn't prosecution," Musk told the committee. "It's political enforcement, sponsored and sold." The third set was internal campaign slides from James's re-election team, shared with staff. A strategic targeting map highlighted X-Corp, Daily Wire, and Heritage Foundation for enhanced legal scrutiny to maintain prosecutorial visibility. The goal? Engage high-profile disruptors before key elections. James wasn't reacting to crimes, she was preemptively striking dissent. Her firewall, media, nonprofits, PR firms, DNC operatives began to crack. Independent journalists exposed her tactics, and her own staff turned. 3 senior aides filed ethics complaints, citing irreconcilable political bias. 7 others resigned, one writing, "This office no longer functions under the law. It functions under a narrative." The public's reaction was a wildfire. Protests erupted across New York, not the astroturfed kind James favored, but raw, organic fury. Outside her office, crowds chanted, "No more lawfare! No more lies!" Signs read, "Justice isn't a weapon," and "Letitia lied." A Brooklyn small business owner, once targeted by James for minor tax discrepancies, spoke through a megaphone. "She went after me because I donated to a conservative candidate. If she can do this to Musk, to Trump, what's stopping her from coming for us?" A retired teacher tearfully recounted how James's office bankrupted her charity over paperwork errors while ignoring progressive groups. The crowd roared, their voices echoing through Manhattan's canyons. Online, the backlash was relentless. Hashtags like "Stop Lawfare" and "On James Exposed" trended globally. Citizen journalists on X dissected her record, unearthing old cases tied to donor agendas. A viral video showed the teacher's story, amassing millions of views. The public wasn't just angry, they were awake, connecting dots obscured for years. In Albany, James's office was a tomb. Late at night, she sat alone, the glow of her laptop casting shadows on framed press clippings now gathering dust. The headlines had turned, "The Fall of a Partisan Prosecutor, James's Legacy Unravels." Her once loyal staff were gone, replaced by a skeletal crew of temps. She opened an email from a former ally. "You're radioactive. Step down before it's worse." James stared at the screen, her reflection a ghost of the woman who'd commanded podiums. Doubt crept in. Not guilt, but fear. The machine she'd built was devouring her, and there was no one left to call. The Democratic Party's retreat was ruthless. Behind closed doors, panic gripped party leaders. A leaked DNC memo warned, "James's exposure risks undermining our judicial narrative nationwide." Senators who once praised her as a trailblazer now avoided her name. A New York congressman, once a staunch ally, told reporters, "We need prosecutors who unite, not divide." Party strategists redirected funds to safer candidates, and donors quietly pulled support. James wasn't just a liability. She was a ticking bomb, threatening to detonate the party's credibility on justice reform. A class action lawsuit from 14 organizations, including conservative nonprofits, tech startups, and religious groups previously targeted by James, alleged malicious prosecution and civil rights violations, seeking $460 million. Federal judges fast-tracked the cases, and discovery loomed, promising to expose every memo, donor meeting, and back-channel deal. The lead plaintiff, a small Christian charity, released a statement. "James destroyed our work to feed the homeless because we didn't align with her politics. This isn't justice, it's vengeance." Legal analysts predicted the suits could bankrupt her office, and set a precedent for prosecuting prosecutorial abuse. The media, once James's ally, turned predator. CNN questioned her funding ties. The New York Times ran, "When justice becomes political," and a former MSNBC contributor admitted, "She fed us lines. We ran them." Democrats abandoned her. Chuck Schumer dodged questions. Kamala Harris was unavailable, and the DNC scrubbed her name from talking points. A senior strategist told Axios, "If she sinks, she's taking our narrative with her." The New York State Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct delivered the final blow, suspending James's authority to file lawsuits pending investigation. Her active cases were frozen, and a trustee took over her office. The governor announced a commission to review her cases, signaling her expendability. Her staff resigned en masse, her website went offline, and her once vibrant office became a ghost town. Musk spoke at a transparency conference in Austin, his words cutting through the noise. Letitia James wasn't an aberration. She was a blueprint, a model of what happens when ideological actors get unchecked access to justice and call it accountability. She turned the law into a sledgehammer, smashing dissent while claiming to protect the people. But the public picked it up and swung it back. He paused, scanning the crowd. Entrepreneurs, coders, everyday Americans who'd driven hours to hear him. "This isn't my victory, it's yours. You saw the truth, shared it, demanded answers. The system didn't catch her, you did. And this is a warning to every would-be tyrant in a suit. Weaponize justice, and you'll lose it. The people are watching, and they're not going back to sleep." The crowd erupted, their cheers a thunderclap against the old order. In Albany, James closed her office door, her empire of subpoenas and slogans reduced to ash. Her downfall wasn't one moment, but a cascade. Leaks, whistleblowers, and Musk's relentless evidence exposed a machine that thrived on weaponized justice. The DOJ launched a federal probe, Congress expanded its inquiry, and James's legacy, once a progressive triumph, became a cautionary tale. She wasn't defeated by enemies, but abandoned by allies. A political biohazard in a system that devoured its own. The warning was clear. Weaponize justice, and you lose it. The public, now awake, ensured the reckoning was only beginning.